Hey there. So today we're out here at this private property office park. We don't own this, but we're out here flying our drones. You know, ruining the hobby for you and even ruining the hobby for us. I'm totally just kidding, obviously. We're not ruining the hobby. That's just an excuse. That's a scapegoat. People just want to blame other people for things. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm watching videos is read comments. And when it comes to FPV or drone content, I've noticed a pattern that some of the comments on certain videos, you'll have people claiming that certain actions are ruining the hobby, or possibly that these actions have caused the FAA to give us more regulations. Well, I can understand why people may think that. I don't necessarily believe that that's true. More importantly, I don't think it's possible to prove if it's true. And it's probably every hobby that exists, no matter what your hobby is. Somebody has probably said, oh, this action that you're doing is gonna ruin the hobby for everyone else. You know, especially as somebody who used to skateboard and, you know, tear up fucking curbs, skate on and other people's property, businesses, get chased out by cops. If anything, that made skateboarding better. It may have looked bad to some people, but really. Now let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you could objectively tie certain events to lead to certain legislation or regulation. Let's say, for example, you know, when Rotor used to do really crazy stuff back in the day, that actually did make the FAA say, hey, oh, these guys are doing this, we gotta put some rules down. Even if that's the case, it still doesn't matter. So I was able to find the Rotor Riot video where they dove that bridge in Canada. And it's interesting because there are countless comments stating that they're ruining the hobby for everyone. You know, they're gonna ruin it for everyone. They're just gonna ruin it for everybody. But ironically, this was posted 6 years ago and the hobby's still not ruined. Really, all this did was make Rotor Riot look bad. It didn't ruin anything for anybody else.
Hey, did you see the latest video from Rotor Riot? See the terrible thing they did? They dived a bridge. And yes, I did watch the video. Actually, I even left a comment on it saying, you're ruining the hobby for the rest of us because I can't fly that well and it makes me feel bad.
So now let's look at some rules that you actually have to follow when you're flying your FPV drone. And, you know, just ask yourself, do you actually follow all of these rules? I mean, I'm gonna say that a lot of people don't. So if these rules were in fact brought on by bad actions, but we're still flying drones and not following the rules, you see what I'm getting at here? Anyway, let me just kind of break down a couple of these rules. The first one I'm going to mention is one that I know a majority of people who fly FPV drones are guilty of, and that's flying your drone without a spotter. So if you're wearing goggles, technically you have to have a spotter. So if you're not doing that, you're breaking the rules. And you know what? If you're breaking those rules, you're ruining the hobby. And that rule, if you break that rule, you're ruining the hobby, and there's just gonna be more rules for us to have to break. If you're responsible and you go fly without a visual observer, no one's gonna bother you. If you're not doing reckless shit and you're out there flying by yourself and you don't cause any problems, no one's gonna care. But that's not really my point. My overall point is that if you break rules or if you do dumb things, more rules come. But then if more rules come, you can just break more rules and nothing's gonna happen. Now, another rule that I know some people probably follow, but a lot of people probably don't, and that's registering your drone. Have you registered your drone? Have you registered all your FPV drones? Every drone you have, is it all registered? Did you pay the $5? Because if you didn't, you're ruining the hobby. Now, I'm not advocating for you to go do wild and crazy shit and, you know, like fly your drone over a freeway or, you know, dive a giant skyscraper in the middle of a busy day. I would never suggest any of that. Don't do that, that's just stupid. But even if you were to do that, it doesn't affect me at all. I'm still flying drones. It doesn't affect my hobby because I'm gonna continue to fly my drone regardless of what the rules are. And if I follow the rules or not is really not something I'm gonna talk about. I plead the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. Now, if it's a matter of just public perception of flying drones, yeah, possibly sometimes doing a dumb thing with a drone can cause some people to think drones are bad. But I don't necessarily believe that's ruining the hobby, because people have been doing dumb things with these drones since drones have been a thing, but I'm still doing my hobby. So the hobby isn't ruined for me. You may be wondering why I said that being in a private place ruins the hobby. I've seen several comments on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, not Twitter, but YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, MySpace, all the social media apps. I've seen people respond to FPV footage like, you shouldn't be flying on private property. That's not good. You're ruining the hobby. It's like, well, where do you want us to fly? In a park? That's no fun. There's no gaps. There's no concrete. Y'all are boring. You know that? If you're afraid to quote unquote trespass, light trespassing as I like to call it, you're a bitch. You're missing out on a really good time in life if you're afraid of, bullshit like that. Just live your life and go do it. Life's too short to like worry about it. But if you want to talk about ruining the hobby and you want to talk about real things that are probably actually causing legislation to happen, it's much more likely that legislation happens for drones because of financial interests. There are companies that want to do delivery drones. So in order to maintain that airspace for delivery drones, they have to regulate everything else. The government doesn't care about safety as much as they care about money. But I'm still not saying be reckless with drones. Don't be reckless with drones. That's stupid for you to do that for yourself. But if you do it, don't tell anybody.